Welcome to the Author's Attic, a production brought to you by Social Problems, the official journal of the Society for the Study of Social Problems. I'm Casey Hendricks, and today I'll be joined by one of the journal's recent authors, Dr. Edward Flores, to discuss an article in which he was the lead author. It is entitled Chicano Gang Members in Recovery, The Public Talk of Negotiating Chicano Masculinities. Dr. Flores is Assistant Professor of Sociology at the University of California, Merced. In addition to the article on social problems, his work has been featured in ethnic and racial studies and a number of edited volumes. His first book, entitled God's Gangs, Barrio Ministry, Masculinity, and Gang Recovery, which was published by New York University Press, recently won the Distinguished Book of the Year award by the American Sociological Association's section on Latino sociology. More information about Dr. Flores and his research can be found at his personal website at www.edwardfloresphd.com. Without further ado, please let me welcome to the Author's Attic, Dr. Edward Flores.
Thank you, Casey. So my article, which was co-authored with Pierrette Hondonu-Sotelo, examines how two faith-based programs used ritualized verbal communication to facilitate exit from gang life. I spent a few hundred hours doing participant observation, and I conducted about 34 semi-structured interviews with adult Latino men leaving gang life. And my research challenges the dominant perspective from the Chicago school, which suggests that that gang exit is a result of life course developments like marriage, the birth of a child, getting a job. The reigning paradigm for the early part of the 20th century was that people joined gangs, left gangs once they grew up. And in the late 20th century, sociologists became concerned with the structural obstacles that young men faced in the inner city because of industrialization, the lack of mobility ladders, and the hypothesis is that gang activity continues in the absence of gainful employment. Now, there's been changes in the American religious marketplace. In the early 21st century, churches are now allowed to compete for federal funding to provide social services, and so this sets a different backdrop for the process of leaving the gang. In our research, we looked at two ministries, Homeboy Industries and Victory Outreach. One, a Jesuit Catholic social program, the second, a Pentecostal church, and we looked at the ways in which they facilitated exit from gang life. We found that talk is central to the process of recovery. In Victory Outreach's model, which followed the Pentecostal model of spiritual restoration, or in Homeboy Industries' model, which followed the more secular model of Alcoholics Anonymous, right, like 12-step recovery, we found that ritualized verbal displays were at the center of how gang members participated in the process of leaving the gang behind. It was through these ritualized verbal displays that they articulated conventional notions of manhood, such as monogamy, a job, being emotionally supportive of spouses and children and mothers, abstaining from drug abuse and alcoholism. And so articulating conventional notions of manhood against pathological depictions of gang masculinity, like violence and drug abuse, incarceration. It was through these ritualized verbal displays that they articulated conventional notions of manhood and re-articulated Chicano masculinity. And so the ideal of responsible fatherhood in Victory Outreach, which was the man of God, and in Homeboy Industries, which was family man, was what guided these interactions that led men out of gang life. Ritualized verbal displays also, though, aside from stigmatizing gang masculinity, allowed gang members to participate in the process of performing these ascendant notions of manhood. So at Victory Outreach, there was this highly ecstatic form of worship that involved an altar call and, symbolically breaking ties with the gang. Um, this very ecstatic worship where people laid hands on each other and embraced each other through brotherly love, or in homeboy industries, participating in these group therapy sessions where people gave testimonies of being family men and wanting to leave behind gang life. Um, these ritualized verbal displays allowed gang members to perform ascendant notions of Chicano masculinity. So, so in sum, our research builds on existing research that conceptualizes how people leave behind behavior that's illicit. Victor Rios's work or John Hagen's work emphasized that stigma um, doesn't allow people, to leave behavior um, that's that's criminal or illegal. Rather, the opportunity to engage in ritualized practices that distance one from from illegal activity have a reintegrative function, and so that's what we found.